Hello, folks. Hello, folks. Good evening. How are you today? I hope you've had a great week so far. I hope everybody is good. I hope everybody has been keeping safe and everybody washing their hands, keeping a safe distance, and keeping in mind that COVID-19 is still very real. Yeah, welcome to another great evening on Just Banter. We have a very interesting guest on today. He's one of the brightest minds out of northern Nigeria, out of Nigeria, as a matter of fact. He's a humanitarian first, in my own opinion. Then he's a legal practitioner and also a politician. But he also says he's a policy analyst. Now, there's been a lot going on in the political landscape in Nigeria at the moment, especially within the APC. And he happens to be a former member of the APC, a very high-ranking one, as a matter of fact. And he left the party and moved on to another party. Now, we have tons of questions for him, tons and tons and tons of questions. But like I said, the guy is just something else. And believe me, you're going to have a great, great time. We're going to bring him on shortly after this. So hi guys. So this evening we have on, like I said, one of the brightest minds out of Nigeria. He's a legal practitioner, a humanitarian, and also a politician. And he also says he's a policy analyst. I'd like to introduce into the studio a good friend of the house. His name is Honorable Kaloma Musdapher. The Honorable.
Indeed.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. I see you're keeping well too.
Well, we're trying. What can we do? COVID-19 has shut us down, but we'll still try our best, to stay on top of things.
Yeah.
Hope you have been keeping safe as well.
Well, as best as we can.
You politicians, you always have people, coming in, coming out, and all of that. And you always have to deal with so many people, especially with somebody like yourself, whom, like I said, you're a humanitarian. I see you doing, quite a lot of things, especially when it comes to Barbara and Gariki Federal Constituency. And that led to you wanting to go into politics to try to change the narrative and change the way things, have happened there. Now, if I remember correctly, you did quite a lot of projects as an individual before you actually went into active politics. Can you tell us a bit, around that?
Well, I guess as members of society, we're all citizens. We care about the environment where we live. I think it's not something that should be, I'm sure everybody that lives in a society with people will do what he can to help. So there's nothing unique about the things which I did. There's so many people who have been helping, supporting the public sector and getting things that they're doing, which they're not even involved in the political process at all. And I think the confusion regarding, those kind of things like economic benefits going to people and political engagement, I think in some ways it blurs the lines about what politics is supposed to be.
Okay.
So as a matter of practice, I've tried very hard to separate the two things. You can be a philanthropist, you can do a lot of things to help your people, but these are social or civic responsibilities that are not particularly like political ones, so to speak. Just to get clarified, yeah.
Yeah. So you have a flourishing legal practice.
Yeah. Well, we do what we can.
What led you into politics?
Well, it's an issue of concern about conditions in our country. I mean, anybody our age who grew up largely during the military era, we have very active political minds, in the sense that we're looking at social conditions in the country and thinking that how things could be done differently. That Nigeria of our dreams that has been preach, the Nigeria we speak about in our anthem and everything. Finally, I think it's come to a time that we feel that we also have a responsibility to try to do something about getting there, because we don't appear to be getting closer to that vision. So I guess everybody, in whatever form you can, I think everybody will envision something that he can do to help to manage the situation. I guess the primacy of the political angle regarding that, it comes from a basic premise that it is through the political process of political system that you have a greater opportunity to change policy, change things, and move things forward. So I guess that should be the motivation for me to also play a part in shaping our future.
Your very youthful looks must have led you to quite a scrap when it comes to politics, especially with the way the old guard have refused to let the young guard come on board and start running things across the country. Now, you were formerly in PDP, then you moved to the APC, and then you moved to the SDP. Now, there's been quite a lot of controversy, around yourself, because you had, quite a contentious issue with the sitting governor of Jigawa State at the last, just before the last elections. Now, I wonder why that will happen, and I'll tell you, I'll let the viewers, take a look at this, and then let them judge for themselves so that they will understand precisely why I'm saying this. Because you're such a popular person, and you were supposed to be, should I say, a major asset to not just the party, but also the states, considering the fact that you have a former SA to the governor on intergovernmental affairs. Now, I'll play this for the viewers and let them, tell us what they think. Hold on.
Baba mun gamsu da kai da garke ba ma yin shakka. Ga wakili mun samu. Baba Kaloma ta ko ina gari na gaishe ka. Ga Kaloma masoyin mu. Garke har babura za ka kare duk haƙoƙin mu. Garke babura. Kaloma zai fito ya wakilce mu. Mun yi murna ka fito muna muradi wurin. Ka zama haske ko ina ka leƙa sai murna. Ga wakili mun samu. Wasu na ta rawa, wasu na ta shewa don murna. Ga wakili mun samu. Garki babur yau yar manuniya ce ta nuna. Ga Kaloma masoyin mu. Bai ta murna, Kaloma za ya zo ya wakilce mu. Garki babur. Kaloma zai fito ya wakilce mu. Mun yi murna ka fito muna muradi wurin zamu. Na fi so in ci gyaɗar da babatun bore malam. Ga wakili mun samu. Ko fito ga ra'ayin ku ga Kaloman nan malam. Ga wakili mun samu. Garki babur mun ɗau Kaloma malam dan malam. Ga Kaloma masoyin mu. Garki kai ne ra'ayin mu ga muradi mun samu. Garki babur. Kaloma zai fito ya wakilce mu. Mun yi murna ka fito muna muradi wurin zamu. Ka zama mana bango majinginar gobe da yaro. Ga wakili mun samu. Ga fawaki ya nuna sai bayanin yin roro. Ga wakili mun samu. Ga fa mai kyauta wanda baya sanye ma koro. Ga Kaloma masoyin mu. Ka fito baba Kaloma ka fito ka wakilce mu. Garki babura. Kaloma zai fito ya wakilce mu. Mun yi murna ka fito muna muradi wurin zamu. Ga fa kan daki shi daga shi sai taro zaki. Ga wakili mun samu. Garki har babura mu muna kiran baba da zaki. Ga wakili mun samu. Kai tafi na kwana kake a fannin yin aiki. Ga Kaloma masoyin mu. Garki har babura Allah taimake ka masoyin mu. Garki babura. Kaloma zai fito ya wakilce mu. Mun yi murna ka fito muna muradi wurin zamu. Na ji 'yan makaranta suna yabon mai alkhairi. Ga wakili mun samu. Ɗalibai na ji suna yabon ka bun kyauta tsari. Ga wakili mun samu. Kaya hanya an dau ma'aikata jingin tari. Ga Kaloma masoyin mu. Allah saka maka Allah ƙara himma gwararren mu. Garki babura. Kaloma zai fito ya wakilce mu. Mun yi murna ka fito.
Honorable Kaloma Musdapher. Was that a presidential campaign or a gubernatorial campaign? Now, the reason why I ask is this. Look at that mass that came out in your support. And you tell me that that was for a seat at the Federal House of Representatives. Now, if you have such a massive following, what happened?
Well, let me be honest. In Nigeria today, anybody can attract large amount of people to attend a political rally. People do so for different reasons, and I think it's not really a good matrix for you to actually maybe assess the quality or the strength of a candidate regarding that, because the same people that would come to a rally for one reason, they could go to a different rally for a different reason.
Or another reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
For instance, if you see the massive turnout we had during our rallies and everything, the campaign, they didn't translate into the kind of numbers we expected on election day. For a lot of reasons, some of which we're still trying to have a greater understanding of what happened. But I think the beauty of it is that there's always a lot of things to learn and a lot of things to understand. Political engagement in the country, remember, it's on the basis of a lot of traditions and practices that have been going on for quite some time. There's a huge gap in perception between the people. And remember, my area is a largely rural area. With probably maybe 80 to 90% of the population living below the poverty line. We don't have a single industry that caters for anything. Government is the only business there.
In the entire state, I believe.
I don't know, not in the entire state. I am competent to speak about the locality that I focused on. Of course,
no, because I was in Jigawa. I was in Jigawa in November last year, and I was in shock. That such a beautiful place, rich land, very kind, warm people, were living in such levels of poverty. It was a shock.
It's the story of Nigeria. It's the same everywhere. Jigawa is not that much different from other places. It's the same thing. Like if you travel around the country, like I think I've been fortunate to have lived all over the country. So I know that the more common misconceptions or stereotypes that you see people attaching to places is mostly untrue. And all the arguments that people give you about the diversity problem or the problem homogeneity in the country, that's saying that diversity is what is causing the problem. But if that were the case, then the areas where you have largely rural populations are supposed to reflect the fact that homogeneity is supposed to have given birth to good results. Look at Eastern Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's the same problem everywhere. And I think one of the major problems we have is that we have so many wrong narratives circulated regarding the political process and the reasons why we have the problems, because we focus on talking about the problems and hardly ever attend enough time to talk about the solutions. We thrive in ambiguity and mistake correlation for causation, and largely always offering the wrong diagnosis of the problems. And I think that's part of the reason why we're not moving forward. I don't particularly think that those in authority, even in Jigawa State, Governor Badaru and others, are specifically bad people, as many would like to say. The reality is that we're operating a very bad system, and it's very, very difficult to fairly apportion blame when we're all operating under an environment that cannot deliver the kind of results that we all seek. But we find it very convenient for us to point accusing fingers at people on the basis of their own perceived failure to meet up with expectations. And that's one of the reasons why I feel perhaps one of the greatest things that happened to our political development, or our journey towards democratizing our political process, is the emergence of General Muhammadu Buhari as president in Nigeria in 2015. Because if you look at it, it's there's a very, very strong perception of propriety, which is surrounding his persona, his public record, and all of that. And the thinking the people had that there's nothing wrong with the Nigerian state, there's nothing wrong with the policies. All we have is bad leaders who are not implementing things properly. So the moment you have an honest person in a position of authority, then everything will fall in place. Now, that rather simplistic view, I think Buhari's tenure as president so far, I think, if anything, it has served to kind of debunk that kind of misconception. And what we're hoping is for people to kind of say, okay, wait a minute, if indeed somebody with these kind of perceptions around him is in control and we're not getting the results we're expecting, then naturally people are supposed to be asking questions, okay, then what is the real issue? So hopefully with that, I think the discussion and narrative will start leading us towards our real problems and diagnosing the things that we need to, so that we can, finally start moving on as a nation. I don't think there's any, I wouldn't do that, so I wouldn't presuppose that somebody else in authority is, there solely to destroy our commonwealth. There could be many other things that could be mitigating against his own action, and most of it, the system. So
yeah, but when you say that, then who takes responsibility?
Responsibility, accountability. You have to create an environment of accountability before you can talk about that. We have a political system, right? That doesn't have the kind of democratic culture wherein the democratic rule would have provided the benefit for it. So it's like you have the facade of what democracy is supposed to mean. But if you really sit down and look at it, it doesn't operate in that way at all. For example, you see, I believe very strongly that Nigeria's situation is that you have a largely confused social system. You have ineffective governance and administrative structures. You have a barely functional political system that does not have the capacity to drive the social system to a direction. You have a weak economic base, a huge population that is consuming and not producing. So under an environment like that, you need resources, of course, to get it. You need resources for schools, resources for roads, for energy, and so many other things. But I think the approach is that we've not yet understood the primacy of the political process in the dynamic of fixing the country, because Nigerians have chosen for themselves a multi-party democratic system as a means to deliver the aspirations of their people. Now, so if the political system is dysfunctional or cannot deliver what it's supposed to, then it cannot affect the social system. And it really doesn't matter what the government and an insignificant population of people get to do. For example, in my local government, 450,000, for example, out of which about 2,700 of which are employees of the local government, including the teachers. That's less than 1%. So if 1% of the people, no matter how rightly guided they are operating in a way that they're not collaborating with the rest of the society in moving the country forward, there's nothing they can do that will ever make sense. Besides, when you look at the fact that about 90% of resources coming to local government are actually being expended on recurrent expenditure for the people working. So, so in a situation where 99% of the people go without anything, and then 1% of the people are the one that get something, and those people are still the ones that are complaining that they're not getting sufficient pay and all that, the fact that they're serving. But they tend to forget that the larger society gets next to nothing. So where do you start?
So, but the reality is this. At some point, somebody has to take responsibility, either the leadership or the foundation.
We all have to take responsibility. We all have to. For example, we have this tendency for us to throw in the towel, that people keep on telling you whatever you advocate for. The first answer you quickly get from people is, this is not going to work, that's not going to work. or you hear statements telling you the Nigerian economy has defied all economic policies and all things like that. It's all a bloody lie. There's nothing like that. We haven't done anything. And I'll ask you, our brother, even from your own perspective, would you rightly say that we have done everything that we need to do to move this country forward and we have failed? Would you say that?
Well, I would say that we have not even started.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now,
the only way you can move forward, like the reason you have the political system to do, because you need collective action for you to get things that are being changed. But the misconception regarding political engagement is that it's always focused on winning elections for the purpose of having control of the apparatus of governance.
Yeah.
For you to kind of think that you only have to have government in your hand before you can do this, you can do that. And it's partly true, but just a very small part of the picture. A political leader, for example, in today's society, he wears two caps. There's governance on one side, and then there's leadership of the larger society on the other. Governance is the only part of it that is concentrated, that you need to get the coercive powers of state in control, because you give orders to the people that work under you. But the more important relationship is a relationship that is established between the leader and the people. For example, as a Muslim, our leader is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's in his grave. He's been there for 1,400 years, but yet he leads you. Why? Because anybody who is his follower, you are trying to lead your life on the basis of his principles and his values, and you're chasing after that. And from that perspective, then there's leadership which is created as a result of that. Now, you name any current political leader in the country, anybody, and you tell me the person has a followership of people that are trying to kind of, emulate his good example, or there's a vision that he has that people are ascribing to, and they're trying to, implant these things in their daily lives and everything. I would like to know who that person is, if there's one. And you can't move a country forward if you can't inspire people. If the inspiration in the political process stops at election day, Nigerians come and vote for me, I become a this or that, and you go back and sit down and relax and I'll fix your country for you. It's nonsense. No country has ever been built by any president or any leader or any king. Countries and nations are built by its people. The leaders you have is to inspire people to chase after that vision. And the argument is not supposed to be about this guy is honest, this guy is dishonest. No. Anybody who comes out and has the audacity to advocate for votes in any society, that person ought to at least maintain the minimum standards of propriety before he can do that. But if somebody who is bankrupt socially to the point that you can question his basic integrity, and the person is coming and advocating for votes, for me, it is not something we should look reflective on that person. No, it's reflective on the society, because it shows utter disrespect to the people because they're willing to accept such kind of nonsense. You have a role to play. You show what you can accept or something. I'm not blaming Nigerians for everything that happens, but your tolerance level towards certain things, it defines what your own expectations should be. So the point, that I say for our generation is this: no matter what it is that has been done before, it doesn't appear to be working. So we need to try something different. And if anybody says that, look, we have done everything within our power to move this country forward, and what we're doing now is the absolute best that we can do, then our answer, and I think I'm speaking for a lot of Nigerians to say that, your best is not good enough. And if that is all you can do and you cannot match our own expectations, please move aside and we'll show you how it's done.
Okay, so now this takes me 2 steps back.
Yeah.
To the issue of the reception you got.
Yeah.
When you're doing your campaign rally.
Yes.
The first question I'll ask you is this.
Yeah.
Do you think you were the best candidate for that role, for that position?
I believe in the political process.
No, I'm asking you.
I'll answer you very clearly. I believe in the political process, and I believe in the primacy of the voter. And the reason why I'm saying this is this. If you know the academician, the lawyer, Patrice Lumumba from Kenya,
yes,
he's a very, very powerful speaker. Somebody asked him a question a few years ago, that, all these good ideas you have, why don't you put it in practice and, join a political party and try to advocate for a position in your country so that you can put those things that you are preaching into practice. And he answered that. He said that he ran a campaign, which is the most responsible campaign in his opinion, as he said. And at the end of the day, the candidate that came and threw a lot of money and other things to the people was the person who won the election. So his own argument is that he said the African electorate does not respond to ideas. Now, I disagreed with him before that point. I disagreed with him at the point that we lost the election, and I still disagree with him today because the issue is simple. It is the responsibility of a candidate that has a value that he is trying to communicate to the people. If the people in that area fail to recognize the significance of whatever value it is that you come with you regarding this, it is perfectly rational for that population to vote according to something they understand. So for me, I cannot claim after losing the elections at that particular period that, there was intimidation, there was official manipulation, there was money sharing and all of these things, because in the same location, on several elections before that point, General Muhammad Buhari, who is the president today, he ran in those areas and there was intimidation, they used money, they used everything. But at the end of the day, because the people in that area have appreciated the message that he comes with, and they've accepted it to the extent that no matter how much you give them, they will collect the money and they will still vote for him.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm happy. We got, I think, about 14,000 votes in the elections. We came third after APC, the ruling party, and the PDP candidate. We came third. And for me, being the fact that I do not think I did anything to induce anybody to vote for me, I believe the number of people that voted for us are a number of people that believed and understood the message that we had. And I believe it's a good start for us to look at it from that perspective, because if the other people collected money or were allowed themselves to be intimidated for that purpose, it is something which shows the balance in terms of what they understood. So it means we just have a lot more work to do. The point is that you need to understand that if you're coming to a people, there are certain practices and norms that they're used to. And remember, there's a huge divide. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of poverty of material poverty, and there's also poverty in terms of education, understanding, and all that. So for you to actually be able to raise the consciousness of the people to think above the current narratives that they are living under, then they are not going to have something that will move forward. One of my problems with educated political leaders of today is the fact that they take the responsibility that is being provided to them on account of their qualifications and the fact that they have a superior understanding of what the country has. They are more educated than the common man. They understand things better. That is what qualifies them to rule. But when they get onto the positions in terms of the political process, then they will tell you that the poor people are not educated sufficient and there's too much poverty. So they're not going to go along with any changes that we try to bring to the process because they're used to doing things and everything. So what is the purpose of your political leadership if the political activities and everything that's being done is done on the basis of the knowledge and understanding of somebody who is far less than you? So your education is not creating a dent in the issue. And as far as I'm concerned, your education is worthless as far as that issue is required. And the argument they bring, let me close this for you. The argument they bring, in respect to the fact that, look, our people are not ready for this, they're not ready for that, they're not educated, is all nonsense. When the white man came, at least to northern Nigeria, they didn't understand the white man's language. But whatever idea was communicated to them in language they understood, they had capacity for them to pick and choose what they wanted and what they didn't. And remember, within the context of a political party in a largely agrarian state like Jigawa State, from experience, the issue is this. Whoever is in the number one seat as a sitting governor in that particular state, his role and his perception as far as the people are concerned is second only to God. People, both in active politics, the officials of the party and all that, they They religiously follow the instructions of the governor. They disobey the instructions of God to please the governor. They disobey the instruction. They break the law to please the governor. They break the bylaws of the party to please the governor. They break the ties of kinship to do what the governor is saying. So you now come and tell me that if you gave these people legitimate instructions for them to do what is right from that position, you say the people will not follow you? What are you talking about? So for me, I was in the PDP and I joined that party initially because of my perception, what I was told and what I understood. I'm educated, I'm a lawyer, maybe I'll make a good federal legislator. So maybe I could give better representation to people in the National Assembly. But entering into the political process, I understood. The problem in this country is not in the National Assembly. The primary problem you have in this country today is the dysfunctional political system you have that is totally ineffective, that is not organized in a way for it to produce the results that are best. And those who are operating within the system, the more you take the pragmatic path, like a lot of people are being pushed to, the more you realize at the end of the day that you're only ending up doing exactly the same thing the other people are doing. But at some point, you reach a crossroads where it is either you hold on to your ideals or you play along with the game. But the problem is this. If you play along, you don't know how slippery that slide is. And maybe you will never be able to find yourself when you go. So people who say that I refuse to play ball, I refuse to, compromise on certain things. Yeah, I didn't. And the reason, because I'm afraid. I don't know what a practice of hypocrisy at this stage in my life will do to me later on. What if it becomes a part of me and I can't get rid of it? What if I forget what I was doing and someday look at myself in the mirror and be wondering how did the hell did this happen? I would rather remain within what I understand. And even if I'm wrong, let me be wrong on something that I believe 100% to be the right thing to do. I don't mind losing. If I lose for the right reasons, it's better for me than to win for the long, because winning the election in itself is not an end. So if I win the elections in a certain way, it compromises my capacity to be able to challenge the status quo, because the premise of what you're getting from the beginning is you don't get it.
Yeah. Okay, you know what?
Yeah.
Before I go on to the next question.
Yeah.
I'm going to play another clip.
Yeah.
That clip tells a story behind your movement from APC to the SDP.
Yeah.
Your reaction at that point, because right now you're saying that you don't play politics of bitterness and you don't mind losing.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
This particular video beggars a few answers. So we'll be right back, viewers, right after you watch this.
All right, good.
On the basis of competence.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Alhamdulillah. Shine. Yeah.
On the basis of competence, not on the basis of what people want, on other things. I can't see why you call that right. It is not right. It is wrong. Might is not right. That's why we have a democracy. I wish I was not so angry. I wish I was not so angry. I would have been able to express myself coherently. But you have enough, more or less, for me to say something. But I assure you, if there is no political party in this country that will ensure that the party's structures, operations, and everything are done transparently and fairly, then it is time. Young Nigerians, please, let us come together and form a party and show these older people that we can do it. You know, the guy, you know, this person was saying, you know, that you're too eager, you want to do this now, you can wait, you know, for a couple of years, you have time on your side, why in a hurry? As if the office is a responsibility. I think I'm older than the French president, and he's doing well, but yet some guy is sitting and telling me that I can't, when clearly, if he jumps up from his own seat, I will show him I can do better. If indeed I was prepared to run for his office, you know, it would be the first thing that I would do. But the fact is, if I do that, it will appear as if I'm gunning for his office. But sir, I am going to help to organize younger people to fight people like you. People of Jigawa, young people in my state, do not vote for this man. Thank you.
Hi, folks. So we're still on with Honorable Kaloma Musdapher. That was an amazing video. So I'll bring it back on.
Okay.
Honorable Kaloma
I can't hear you. Sorry, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Hold on a minute.
Maybe the sound is off. I can't hear. Hello?
Hello?
Maybe
I
the
can
sound
hear
is
you.
off. I'm not hearing.
Well, we can hear you.
Okay,
I can hear you loud
muted
and
the
clear.
mic, but for some reason it's still not.
The mic is muted on your end, I believe. Can you hear me? Okay, so I think we lost Honorable Musdapher there for a minute, but I'm sure he'll be back in a second. Okay, he seems to be back with us.
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay.
Honorable Kaloma,
Yeah.
can you hear me now?
Loud and
Okay,
clear.
now. Viewers, you saw that video. Please, would like your comments to start rolling in. And if you have any questions for Honorable Musdapher, please send in the questions. We'll let him see those questions and we'll let him take those questions one after the other as much as we can. Now, Honorable Musdapher, you started that video by saying you wish you were not so angry so that you could have been more coherent.
Yeah.
But you still said a couple of things. And those things caught my attention as a person. I don't know if you caught the attention of other people, but you caught my attention. And the one that caught my attention the most was this.
Yeah.
You were going to organize young people to vote out people like Governor Badaru. Now, the question I have for you there is this. If you had felt that much, so emotional about that particular issue, why did you not change at that point in time and run for the seat of governor?
Well, I guess making decisions when you're extremely angry is not probably the best thing to do. So the first thing I'll say is that, you know, I thank God that my anger during that period, how be justified, of course, under the circumstances, but everything that I said and everything that I did is consistent with what I believe up to this moment. I stand by everything that I said and did during that period. After that process, of course, there are people that you can't, politics is not a singular issue that one person is involved. There are a lot of other people, some relatives, some friends, advisors, and when the decision was being made regarding that particular issue, what I did was I told them that I trusted them to sit and discuss the issue depending on what the options were. And I made my position to them very clear regarding issues. But I said, I'm going to walk out and leave them in a room to consider the options that we have and to make a decision about what they felt was the best. And if they came up with a unanimous decision, whatever nature it was, I made a commitment that I was going to follow through what they had. Because Okay, of course, if it's not something that totally goes against my own principles or something which I felt was wrong. And that is what happened. They met, some of them are elders, much older than I am, experienced politicians, some were related to me, some were my friends. People I trusted, basically. People I trusted to deliberate the issues dispassionately and come up with the most rational decision of something which needed to be done. And they came back with the issue that changing your political direction in terms of the scope at that particular is reactive. And if you look at the state is far more complex than federal constituency. Executive responsibilities are completely different from responsibilities of somebody who's planning to go as a legislative person. So,
Yes.
so it will be that the strength of your candidacy, if you're shooting for a different position, will be on account of you being reactive, more or less, to someone else's actions. I think the people in Jigawa State, I think, deserve more than that. People in Jigawa State deserve that anybody who is coming to vie for post, you're looking at it from perspective of the doing something different, doing something better than what the incumbent proposes. And it's something which will take time for you to look at what they're doing, understand it before jumping into it. At that time, it was election season. I was preparing to be a federal legislator. That's what I looked at. That's where I did my research. And I think it would have been reactive and reckless if I had deviated from what I had intended. Because the whole point of the defiance, which led to leaving the APC as a party, is nothing more than I refuse to accept that my right to aspire as a citizen of the country and as a bona fide member of the party, according to some practice, has to be subservient to someone else's convenience. I believe that we have bylaws, we have rules. If for any reason you feel that the structures that you put in place in your own party are not good enough to meet up with your own objectives, you have only one thing to do: change the bloody things, change them. But you can't be presiding over issues. You're exercising authority which laws have given you, maybe like an executive authority. And you pick and choose which laws to follow and which one not to. You don't have the reason to do that. And once you feel that, the existing policy or the existing rules do not allow you to meet up with your objectives, then you have a responsibility to advocate for change of all these things. You have a state assembly, you have all these institutions that are in place. And besides, your strongest source and the power that you have is the people who voted you in. They listened to you and they voted you into power. So for any reason, if you strongly believe that what you're doing is the right thing, stand up, stand by what you believe and defend it. The issue is that a personal relationship is different from a public one. Like somebody sitting as a governor or a leader of people, he has a lot of things that he needs to work out. And his primary responsibility is not to me as somebody younger to him or somebody who works under him. No. His primary responsibility is to make sure that he always acts in the best interest of the people as far as he can tell and do. And provided he is convinced that that is what he has done or that is what he is doing, he should not and should never be apologetic to anybody, no matter whose ox is God, including mine. But you see, if something of a fundamental nature of this nature happens, that, people who have a good relationship, tempers are flying left, right, and center, everybody is having what he's saying. But there doesn't appear to be a position which clearly indicates that, look, I don't like how you feel about what is happening, but it is the right decision, it is the proper thing we've done, and we have done it. I tried so many times to see the governor regarding the issue to discuss it, but he, for his own reasons, whatever it is, we never had the opportunity for us to discuss the issue. So whatever it was, it's something which has happened in the past. It has no bearing on the larger society. It's not something which I believe is useful for the kind of issues and problems that we have in this country. I believe my invitation here is to not necessarily speak about myself, but maybe make a contribution towards things which affect our country, not just my locality as a whole. So, the references to those things that have happened, I think, should be kept in, in perspective of something which we'll discuss that is useful. Whatever, the leadership today, either at the state or federal level and everything, is the same thing. We're all operating under, bad systems, basically. Badr did not. He did not invent the bad political practice that we're shouting and we're complaining about. He met them as well. He's been a victim of them in one way or the other as well in the past. My only argument is that if you're a victim of something, which is what happened to me,
you should work towards changing.
Yeah, exactly. I felt while in the PDP, I felt the nomination process was not handled properly, and but because of the way, regardless of the fact that it wasn't done properly, in my opinion, but still, even in the PDP, I wasn't treated in the same way I was treated by the leadership of the APC. No, not at all. Like, I didn't have a prior relationship with the leadership of the party, not at all. There was no expectations of any kind. I wouldn't have had, a point to say that I'm holding somebody accountable for whatever. It was a practice which was normal. I was not singled out and treated badly. It was something which was normal. But still, there was a very, very genial effort towards, getting me on the table. Look, we appreciate what you're doing, young man. You've empowered a lot of young people. You are raising the questions, and we believe that you're somebody we want to work with in the future. But as far as it's concerned, this has happened, that has happened. We're pleading with you to look at how you'll be able to serve the interests of the people in a different way and all that. And it's about service. And if I was able to withdraw out of the process and everything 4 years or prior to that position before something happened, I mean, why couldn't I have been able to have a sit down for me to realize that with leadership of a party that I effectively joined at 19 and made contribution towards the success of the party, and I've been working as an aide to the executive governor, who ultimately is the one who is making decisions. Whatever my opinions are about everything are things which are open. I've said them openly. And one thing I will not do is this. I know what it feels like, and I suffered as a result of what I felt was bad in the process. So my primary political objective from the moment I understood that, I understood the relationship between bad political practices and bad leadership and lack of public accountability. Because if you play with the political process in whatever form it is, then those who have control over the political process are the ones that anybody playing will be accountable to, and not the people. And once you have a situation of that kind of nature, then you do not have a democratic system. And the saddest part about that is this. Majority of the people that fail to see that reality are exactly the same people that get to suffer from it after they leave office.
Oh, yes, what goes around comes around.
Exactly, yeah. And sometimes I think, regardless of the fact that you hold the leaders accountable, you really need to look at something. There is already an existing infrastructure of governance structures and social practices that have already been in place long before the governor himself got into these places. And these things have built up a culture that makes it impossible for, these people, they just kind of read what the person in authority wants, and then everything just kind of leads to it. And they're not being fair to him. Like, I'll tell you something. The very, very first meeting I had with my principal, then he said, I told him, okay, sir, we're working together. Okay, what are your, do's and your don'ts? And he quite eloquently said, there are no do's and don'ts. We're all doing this to help our people. We're making sacrifice for the benefits that you. So the issue is this. I'm working with you as a junior brother. I like the things that you've done up to this stage. So let's see how we can join hands together for us to, build a more egalitarian state and do the best that we can. So whatever you believe to be the truth, even if it may be something which I might not want to hear it, please do not desist from telling me, even if I don't want to hear it, because even if I don't understand it today, if there is life, at some point, I will realize that what you told me is the truth, as opposed to telling me the things I want to hear for your own selfish reasons at this point, only for me to discover at a later point that I deceive you. So for me, today, I'm glad to say, I do not think that I've betrayed that trust. I do not think I ever misled him. I do not think I ever advised him wrongly. And time will tell whether rightly or wrongly he will appreciate the fact that I dealt with him as honestly as I should. I don't blame him in particular as a person for the things that happened. I blame the incumbent political system. Like one of his close people that was speaking to me saying that I'm thinking it is like I'm fighting against the incumbent system. I said, yes, so what? Is the incumbent political system doing what it's supposed to? No, okay, I'll fight it. You will lose. I said, so be it. I mean, I'm a Muslim, and I know that even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he lost a battle in Uhud. Losing or winning a battle or the chances of that are not the things I should consider to determine whether you're going to fight or not. If the outcome of a fight to determine whether you go into it or not, it's indicative of the fact that you're not fighting for the right reasons. The issue is that we are placed in bad situations. You fight because you have to, not because you want to. And the only reason why at the particular moment I looked at it, what is the balance between my own interests at the expense of the reasons why I'm moving for this? And I believe, and I still strongly believe, that no amount of political manipulation of the political process should be tolerated by anybody. And the fact is this: the people should be trusted. And if you feel the people are not competent to make rational decisions in terms of what affects them, fine. Yeah. Do something about raising their consciousness and educating them so that you can improve the process. But you can't sit and do nothing about pushing the country or its political process to strengthen it to move in the right direction. And you're constantly using your own knowledge and position. Rather than raising the consciousness of the people and improving the process, you're actually utilizing your knowledge and you're exploiting the weaknesses of the people and the system. And at the end of the day, you'll spend 4 years or 8 years there, you'll build some roads, you've done this. But the basic premise upon which the governance structures of a state or a country are supposed to be built have not been done. Even if you do the most fantastic things imaginable, they are not going to be sustainable, because you did not seem to think that creating a system, creating standards, and following these things, and creating an environment where younger people will look up to what you're doing so that they can emulate you and placing the country on the path of development. That is what it takes. You can't, think about it this way. If today, in the country that you're living in, you know that the governance structures in this country and the government in itself is oiled and it's capable of delivering us to where we're going, I don't think people are going to be super worried, about how long the journey is going to take, provided we're on the track and we're moving towards our destination. There's no problem. And that's the bigger issue we're having here. So, the confusions caused by, these disparities in terms of how the process is working is confusing the entire country. And this so-called information age, there's so much data out there, but surprisingly, we have an apathy towards critical thought. People just keep on, we get fed very superficial reasoning about anything. And there's nothing complicated about Nigeria. Nigeria's problems as a country are as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. There is nothing.
Do you believe that? In all honesty?
Yeah, of course.
Nigeria is a peculiar country. Musdapher. Very, very peculiar. Now, a question I will ask is this.
Yeah.
When you look at the governance structures in Nigeria, when you look at the level of deliverables of each and every successive government that comes on, you just continually notice, that there's nothing that you can point to and say, you know what, this is done, it is sustainable, and it is worth it. Now, does this start from the party structure itself?
My brother, it starts
or
from
what?
It starts from even understanding what you are measuring.
Okay.
There's no objective standard, even discussion criteria for the country to determine whether there's a credible basis upon which you can say a leader is doing well or not. You understand? We talk across purposes, and we're very, very ambiguous in the way and manner in which we talk about things. And we don't focus on the things properly. And there is no, there's no standard way that we're looking at this. Today, you can say this, tomorrow you say something else. For example, I give this example a lot. You can see somebody that, he takes, he takes the expressway, Lagos-Ibadan expressway. He's, flying at 200 miles an hour. And where are you going? And the guy is telling he's going to Cotonou. You're going in the wrong direction, man. And the thing is, you will be able to tell what you're doing on the basis of the steps that you're taking. There is nothing that you can just fix in one day. People expect to see effort. People expect you to see plans that you put in place and then look at how these things are happening. But once you don't have you don't have a conscious way that you're looking at it, it's a problem. There is no problem in this world that is so difficult. If you have the right strategy and the right tools and the right resources to do something, everything is easy. I mean, we live in an age that man has gone to the moon about 50 years ago. Look at the gadgets and technology we have. These things are so bloody complicated, but yes, people produce them every day. There is no problem we have in Nigeria as a country that history has not provided a solution for previously. But the question is this: are the solutions that we're providing in Nigeria effective solutions? Are we operating on a proper diagnosis? If somebody is, you're arguing every day about getting a proper driver, when the problem you have is that your engine is knocked, it doesn't really make a difference whether this guy is Michael Schumacher or who is the Formula One guy now. It doesn't make a difference whether the other guy.
Hamilton?
You don't have an engine. So the issue is that you first of all have to be able to fix the engine. Then, in which case, the quality of the driver can even come into play.
Yeah,
exactly. So there's a need for us to kind of start looking at this thing coherently. And the coherent thing to look at is understanding the importance of the political process beyond the actions and activities you have towards attaining political power. There are far greater problems with the political system as it relates to the social system that are unaddressed. Many. And these things cumulatively are the reasons that it creates an environment where the so-called leaders that we're insulting every day, it creates the environment that makes it possible for our leaders to behave the way they do. It's that simple. There's a high level of complicity everywhere, in every quarter, to do with the followers and everything. And the thing is, provided we do not agree to create a system that will shield us away from the things that we don't want, then we'll never be able to find the solutions that we have. And it will be unfair to every single leader if we do that. And the best way for us to move forward on that is to try to understand and educate people, especially younger people. The negative narratives flying around, the terrible misconceptions that have been set in their own minds. And we should kick all these things out. There's nothing complicated about Nigeria. Nigeria's problems are simple and Nigeria's problem can be solved. If you think they're complicated, that it cannot be done, please move away and give our generation an opportunity. And even, in fact, don't even give. Because one thing for certain is that real power, nobody gives it to you, whether they want or they not. The change is going to come, and we're going to fight for it. We don't even want them to give us. We'll take it. It's just a matter of...
On that note, somebody asked a question that's very relevant. So Ibrahim Mohammed says, how far have you gone in galvanizing the youth to take over, as you mentioned in the video? Or was it all just a way of venting out your anger?
Well, the issue of doing that is a question of creating platforms that platforms you can utilize for collective action, on getting people to even begin to start understanding that most of the narratives that are floating around are misconceptions, and how you'll be able to establish a way that people can have a proper way of thinking about the problem, and that way you can start seeing solutions that are coming. Like you see the young men who were doing the not too young to run thing, very, very commendable efforts especially. But the problem is this: even if legally speaking, young people are not barred from political activity, but the question is this: practically speaking, can they participate in the process on the way the system is? Those are the things you have to look at.
It doesn't seem feasible.
Yeah, exactly. I think the most important thing that we must do, the issue of galvanizing the youth towards political, is a question of what political objective we want the youth to do. Most of the time, people think that getting more young people into elective positions is the answer. Not necessarily. I'll give you a small example. For example, now, if you look at your ward of domicile where you live, your ward of domicile, and then you identify yourself and maybe several other people that you feel you share a common viewpoint about certain things that should be done. And then you guys come together and then you make it a point to kind of participate in the activities of what is happening inside. Because the vacuum created by your absence is going to be filled invariably by somebody who might be less competent than you are. And think about things like if somebody is rigging an election, the people who are voting in that particular place are people that are resident in that particular area. They are parents, they are people, they live in the house and all that. So, that notion that you have that, it's not possible for this to happen is all not true. The reality is this, like for the North, I say it everywhere. Every single street where there is congregational prayer, in the morning, after at night, you cannot tell me that there are not at least 5 people that are absolutely honest, people that you can trust, people that if you take 1 billion naira and give them, they will not chop 1 naira out of it. We have a lot of those people remaining. But the issue, we are not targeting the people that have the capacity to take certain responsibilities and bringing them to operate inside the system. We're giving responsibilities to people that clearly don't have what it takes for them to bear the load of responsibilities that are coming on them. So whatever consequence of things which happen as a result of that, we have to blame. And the thing is this, for me at this stage, what I will even advocate for much more than anything is this. Since a lot of people are interested in political office for obvious advantages and people are going after them to look at, allow those people to go. But whatever you do in your own area, if indeed somebody is there that is working, form a coalition that at least you'll be able to look at what the guy is doing and create a sense of accountability. Create opposition in the area. Inform this guy, because he will benefit much more from the opposition than he would with people who are telling him that he's doing the right thing. Most of the time, you look, opposition is all about before elections are coming. So it's like a partisan thing. People are just arguing about, I want this, I want that. Consider this. During the last days of PD administration, some people were saying that, the APC has solutions for the security problem, that they're going to solve it immediately once they get it. I say, okay, if they have such beautiful ideas, they should share these beautiful ideas with the incumbent government. Why do they have to wait till the time that they come? If they really care, it's about security. It's not about who's going to take responsibility for what's happening. So the issue is
who's going to take glory.
Exactly. While politics has its own issues, like for example, they'll tell you loyalty is good. Okay, fine, I agree. Loyalty is very important, but it's not absolute. Even your loyalty to your own parents is not absolute. It's conditional upon certain conditions being met. So no matter how I want to be respectful, no matter how I want to be obedient, as I was taught at home, I cannot be obedient to certain things. It's beyond my capacity for me to pass that. And that is the kind of quality we should be passing to our younger ones. What kind of society are you expecting when you are inspiring people to believe that they cannot achieve anything? Because your generation find it difficult for you to meet up with the challenges of the day. You're doing everything possible to block people who have the capacity to go there. Why? So that you create the illusion that the simple things you can't do are impossible. It's the wrong approach. And the only way we can fix the problem is for us to start understanding political engagement, not as a personal crusade for anybody. If somebody feels he's supporting what I'm doing because he's my friend, it doesn't mean anything. The issue is for us to understand that we have a collective responsibility to come together and think about what we can do to save our country and improve what we're doing. Majority of the people sitting in the National Assembly, I believe they're honest and decent people, but operating in a bad system. And certain things which they're being pushed into, as part and parcel of what took them to those places, it essentially compromises them from actually moving forward and everything. But yet, the way we do it, if you know somebody as a public officer in Nigeria, you'll be able to put his actions and inactions in perspective because you know he's a decent guy. But provided the person is someone you don't know, whatever information that is bandied around regarding his behavior or his attributes, people will find it very, very easy to say, no, the guy is if you say the guy is a member of the cultist organization, people find it easy to believe. And it's not true. There are a lot of people in public service today that have sterling qualities, exceptional qualities that I can't match. Let me say this. Governor Badaru, I worked with him for 3.5 years. And I will tell you 3-4 things about him. 1, he's extremely punctual. 2,
extremely what? Sorry?
Punctual.
Okay.
Punctual. Yeah.
That's a good sign of discipline.
He is disciplined in terms of how he gets his time done. And he's also disciplined in the management of resources, both his own and the resources of state. If he's a wasteful person in any other thing, I have not witnessed it. 2. 3, the 3 things that make people pompous or big-headed is either wealth, power, or knowledge. He has all 3, and he remains one of the most humble people I've ever met. So for me, anybody with such sterling qualities is somebody who is sufficient enough for you to sustain a very, very strong movement that will support and galvanize somebody with those kind of qualities for you to lead. But if in his own quest to be nice to everybody, he finds it difficult to be straightforward and articulate regarding the things that he must do, then everything that he does will end up being weaponized and misunderstood and misrepresented. The responsibility of every leader is that you look at like the qualities that you have as a person, and you can build up. Nobody, see, I have my own bad habits. I have my own, but I'm comfortable in my own humanity. I'm a human.
But your comments about him seems, to portray him, not necessarily from your point of view, but from your comments, it seems to portray him as a contradiction. Because a man that is supposedly disciplined cannot please everybody. He can't even attempt to go out of his way to please everybody.
No. See, people are not just one thing. You have to look at things within the context of what they are. I mean, okay, let me put it this way. This person has been the most famous philanthropist from our own area long before he decided to be governor. In the same community that he lives and everything, he's been having interactions and everything with people for so many years. And people have a very, very robust opinion of him throughout his life. I didn't have any reason for me to think there's anything that would be negative, maybe regarding us. Even when I was in APC, we maintained a very cordial relationship. And there was no reason why I would have established maybe a negative reality maybe between us before we worked. And for most of the time we worked together, we didn't have any problems. These were things that developed as a result of the way he handled nomination process, which I feel he handled wrongly. I still feel that way. But that does not in any way mean that because he did certain things in a way that I don't like, he did things which I feel are wrong, then I will not say certain things about him that I feel is okay. No, I will not do that. He's very, very punctual. Exactly. And I think in some ways maybe it goes to credibility, because if I will tell lies or mistruths or half-truths or mislead anybody into my own perceptions about him because I want to vilify him for the purpose of something, and then that in itself is beneath how I was raised. I will not do that. But you see, for me, don't consider it as I'm giving him a get-out-of-jail-free card as a result of that. No. The positive qualities that he has, as far as I'm concerned, it imposes an even greater expectation from me regarding how he acts.
As it should be.
Exactly, because as far as I'm concerned, anybody that God has gifted the way he gifted him and the capacity he has clearly shown, it is a tragedy upon tragedy upon tragedy for somebody with those kind of qualities to fall so short in things that ordinarily should not be a problem. For me, you know, the saying goes, for whom much is given, much is expected.
Much is expected, definitely.
I would not, let me give it, like there's a time that somebody was telling me that I'm always picking on the Governor Erufai, I'm always criticizing him, I'm always doing that. And I told the guy, I said, okay, bros, I am not criticizing because I dislike him. What the hell do you want me to say about the others? The very fact that I'm talking about it means there's something to even talk about.
Yeah.
I will not.
Whereas the others, there's nothing to say.
Exactly. Look, whether you admit it or not, if you can allow somebody's name to be in your mouth often, it's a mark of respect for that person. Because if the person is unimportant and is a non-entity, I don't think you or I will sit down and be talking about any non-entity, because there won't be a point. Right. If somebody who is a non-entity, exactly, no matter what he does to you, look, there are people who were in my political group that betrayed me politically, but till today, I've not fought with any of them. They still call me, I still solve their problems, regardless of the things they did. Why? Because I'm putting their actions and everything in perspective of who they are as people. And it would be unfair for me to impose certain standards that they will be difficult to do. But the question, like maybe in relation to somebody in position of leadership, like somebody older than I am, obviously more experienced than I am, so in so many ways, somebody that is supposed to inspire you in every conceivable way. If it does something which falls short of that particular requirement, it creates a very, very huge disconnect. And the level of disappointment you feel is real. But if an idiot behaves like an idiot, there's nothing to talk about after that. It is only when somebody acts out of character, and that is where you get anger from. So for me, the anger that I exhibited in the video that you're talking about is justified because it is an expression of absolute shock and surprise. Because I never thought that it would be possible for somebody that I considered that way, and I still consider this way, to have acted in that way. And I'm holding my judgment because I've still not had an opportunity for me to discuss the issues of things which have happened between him. And maybe in time, these things will be put into perspective. But the fact is this: there is no personality cult that should affect what anybody does. And we should not relegate what we're trying to do into some kind of like hero worship discussion between who you like and who you don't like. We should move beyond all these things. It's time for us to actually, look at the things that we're doing that can move us forward.
Now, when you mentioned something along the line. You talked of inspiration. People that you feel that are older and they should have more experience. Now, we have seen a total lack of that in the Nigerian landscape, especially in the political landscape. We have seen a total lack of respect for social values that we were taught as we were growing up, and we expected that those older than us should be able to uphold. We have seen all that thrown into the gutter.
Yeah.
How then now, at this point in time, do you, as you have rightly said earlier on, you wished that you were going to be able to push the movement, galvanize the youth, push them forward. How do we deal with this issue? You have an over-bloated National Assembly. They have refused to even address the issues that are on ground. They are taking excessive, in my own opinion, that is, they are taking excessive allowances, and nobody addresses that. Where do you start from as a country?
Well, they say that in an environment of scarcity and competing needs, as one of my older brothers always says, one must prioritize expenditure. So if you look at the issues and problems we have as a country and as a nation, there are a lot of things which are good, they're nice, but it's good that if we had more information about it so that people understand clearly that we're spending this money on this at the expense of that. It's important, not that it's not. But the question is, can we afford it? Yeah. So do we need a bicameral legislature in Nigeria? I've never come across anything which has shown me why it is necessary. I've never come across
I agree. Yeah.
Effectively, the Senate and the National Assembly are performing a similar function, or maybe the division of those responsibilities between the two chambers of the House. I don't know whether it is necessary for you to have them, especially because of the additional burden it places on the public treasury and the purse. I don't know if maybe a closer examination of what is happening, you'll see that maybe there are reasons that would justify that. But being that I've not studied it, but I think there should be a policy across board, that kind of looks at what we're doing. This is important, this thing is good. Yes, but in terms of our priorities and everything, we can't afford to do this while this is happening. And remember, the society and the economic system, it's like, you're building things one on top of each other. There are certain things that they are important, basically, but without a foundation for them to thrive, which might be situated somewhere else, you will not be able to build it. For example, the earlier discussion that we're having about the primacy of the political process in terms of getting this country forward, a lot of people, you're speaking about that, where people are always talking about, look, our economy is poor, we don't have money, we need money for schools, we need this. Yeah, fine. And the focus on the economy in itself, it's somehow, in some ways, like you miss a very, very fundamental reality. If you watch a lot of CNN and C-SPAN and all that, Western democracies, you'll see there is a lot of focus on mostly the economy and global security and trade. It is not because these issues are more important than social or political stability. No, it is a function of the fact that they have largely settled social and political issues in those things. So they have a platform upon which for them to chase after higher goals and things. In our own environment, the issue is that Nigeria has a lot of untapped economic resources. We have a trajectory for growth. We have a huge population that could be converted from consumers to producers. Nigerians could be, motivated into understanding the value of sweat. Nigeria, all these things are not even impossible things for you to think about, because the anomalies you have in the system are not things we inherited from our grandparents. There's no history which indicates that we're lazy people, we're dishonest people. No, all these things are things that crept up into our body politic, maybe over the last 40 or 50 years as well. Change always comes with consequences. And I think that's part of the reason why the leaders in the First Republic, especially those in the North, they were very, very particular. They wanted modernization and not wholesale westernization, because they knew that wholesale westernization has its own social effects on society and it would cause a lot of problems which we're dealing with. So, what I'm saying is that you need to have the starting point. You must have a functional political system that is capable of organizing or affecting the social system towards your political objective. With those two things happening, you don't need to talk about the economy for the economy to grow, because it's very simple. I'm not an economist, but at least I understand very clearly. Sweat creates wealth. That's how it works. So if Nigerians are not working, anything you're talking about building an economy in Nigeria, you're just talking. That's not how it works. And if the government revenues are things the government is getting from, just from oil, rather than from taxation of commercial activity, where do you expect to create that correlation between the people, a sense of responsibility that it's my sweat and my toil that the government is actually using to cater for our needs, in which case the sense of accountability will be heightened. A lot of people in Nigeria, everybody has a conception of entitlements and privileges. I'm entitled to this, I'm entitled to that, I want this, but there's hardly any conception of responsibility.
That seems to be a very major problem. Yes,
it is. Look at the labor people. They're talking about getting better conditions for the Nigerian worker, which of course I totally support. But the issue is this: I've not seen them do a proper audit and say, okay, you know what? This minimum wage of 18,000 or something they're paying, it doesn't matter. The government should give you more money, but please, everybody, they give you 18,000, at least work for it. Have you earned the 18,000 you're being paid? Have you?
Do you go to work? Do you deliver on your responsibilities at work?
We have private people that we all pay. Everybody has maybe domestic staff and everything. So those of us who live in the cities, if your houseboy doesn't work or to your satisfaction, your gate man is not, will you pay him a salary? No, you don't. But a large percentage of the people who are working in the public sector in Nigeria, they receive salaries for not working. And these people don't seem to think in any way that they are responsible for anything that is going wrong. Why? Because they think that, look, how much am I collecting is little. What of the other people that are collecting much more? So when you have that kind of blame game reality, that people don't look at the primacy of their own responsibility, because it's always easy for you to point at what someone else is doing. So at the end of the day, you'll be lost about who to blame for anything. So I think, that national, that honest national,
a sense of nationalism.
Yeah, that we need to do is a question of, look, the shit has hit the fan. It's almost impossible for anybody to walk out and say that you're not responsible in one way or the other, because we're all part of the system that doesn't work. So we're all screaming and shouting, okay, look, I have a problem with this. We all have a problem with this. So why must we continue with the problem that we're all not happy with? Speak with political leaders, speak with the president, anybody that is a political office in Nigeria that is speaking, have 5-10 minute conversation. He will complain more than you.
But you know what I found? What you just said now, let me tell you what I find funny about it. Everything you have said now so points to bad followership. Now, in the last presidential elections, all the new generation candidates, all of them put together, they did not get as many votes as the followers that Fela Durotoye alone has on Instagram. That is absolutely unbelievable. It goes to show that there's a total lack of faith, a total lack of belief in ourselves as a people, much less in other people, enough for us to have a sound political system. How do you judge such a situation?
There's a reason for things. There's an article I wrote I read a long time ago. I don't know who the person is that author. He called it Economics for Nigeria. He's saying that, people kind of assume that once something doesn't work, then people just abandon it and leave it. So he was trying to explain the reasons why we have very peculiar things in the country, like you don't have clean water, so you have pure water. You don't have adequate intercity transport in our states, and then you have Okada. All the anomalies that you seem to see, there are things which people are trying to build to deal with the problems that they're facing day to day. So just because the government doesn't solve a problem doesn't mean that people will ignore that problem and won't do something about it.
Yeah, there should be a collective action.
Yeah, exactly. So the issue is that you see, we've become extremely Republican, or individualistic. You look at it in terms of how we deal with issues. The things that affect us as individuals and our immediate families. There's no security, you put a gate man in your house, or you put burglar proof, or you put this thing, you deal with that particular issue. Anything that is bad in the government, you can complain about it, but you actually get up and do something about it in terms of how it affects you and your people. But
individually.
Exactly. But anything which requires collective action, that you have to talk to your neighbor and the other guy or community for you to decide to talk about it in Nigeria, it never gets done. For some reason, the primacy of our own individual needs has kind of made it very, very difficult for us to come together for, and even in the political thing is the same thing. So I think the challenge that we have now is how to form a functionality that can, cultivate our collective frustrations and direct these frustrations towards places where the frustrations will mean something. Because as it is now, all the energy that you have in terms of frustration ideas is all getting dissipated without it being effective in making anything happen. There's so many mediums that are readily available. If only we can get the critical mass required for us to start moving and getting these things done. It make no mistake about it, like putting things together from the start in the harsh environment that we're having, for people to abandon their own individual problems and actually put in all the time and energy towards getting things done for the benefit of others, not themselves. It's not that easy. And maybe that explains why all political movements, you see, they're concentrated on the ambitions of an individual. Why?
Honorable Musdapher.
Yeah.
Now, originally, this show always overruns because we always have tons of interesting people.
Yeah.
Now, we knew that we were definitely going to overrun with yourself. And our producers allocated 15 minutes extra. And we have done 25 minutes extra.
Wow.
Now, when we're starting this show, and even the tags and all that on social media, we said to the viewers and intended viewers that you were going to be listening to one of the brightest minds in Nigerian politics. Now, it has not even begun, as far as I know, because I know that this conversation can go on and on and on. I have had a few conversations with you personally, so I'm very, very much in the know. Now, Honorable Musdapher, we need to have you on the show for part 2, part 3, part 4, until we start to see a significant difference in the narrative when it comes to Nigerian politics. We need you to consistently say something, and we will always come after you and make sure that we get your comments each and every time that something of national significance comes into play.
Okay, I guess maybe I should mention that there are quite a number of things that a lot of people are doing, which is extremely commendable. And funny enough, the much younger generation is what they continuously surprise me. I'm talking about people below 30, 25.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
They're about 65% of the population.
Yeah, and anytime you get to sit with them, they appear to be the only people that have not been affected by this noxious malaise that is affecting all of us. They give you a bit of energy in the sense that they think differently, and they're willing to listen to an alternative narrative, and that is reassuring. So maybe our focus should be to look towards these younger people and make sure that before they get lost, like most of us have already, irredeemably so.
Irredeemably so.
What do you do? What do you learn at 50?
Oh, well, Well, I learned something new. I started playing golf recently. I just picked up golf like 2-3 days ago.
Yeah, but
and I've been knocking the balls like I've been playing for maybe about a year or two. So you can always learn something new.
Yeah, exactly. But, golf is an end, not a beginning.
Well, you're still moving in the right direction by attempting to learn. We need to self-educate continuously over the span of life.
We need to be more honest about our experiences. We need to be bold enough to make our mistakes and be honest about them. And talk honestly about these things so that at least we can identify where mistakes are made so that we can keep going. Without an honest discussion about this, we can't move forward. So
I'll give a parting shot. Yeah. I'll give a parting shot, in remembrance of your late father, because I remember something that he said to me at some point way back, I think it was 1994, 1995, when he said, "My friends, all of you sit down, let me tell you something. If you don't suffer today to enjoy later, you will enjoy today only for you to suffer later." That seems to be the case with Nigeria. Now, Honorable Musdapher, we have to call it a night, but not the end of the show. Like I said, we're still going to have you back as soon as humanly possible. As soon as you have enough time, I am sure that we're going to bring you back onto the show and we'll continue this conversation and drive Nigeria forward. You have a great night and see you again soon. All right, then. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Now, like I said to you before the show started, one of the brightest minds in Nigerian politics, he's a brainiac. And he tries to temper down his position. A lot of the times that he talks, he likes to talk through analogy because he believes that everybody must understand each other as you talk. Now, there are still quite a lot of things that we need to ask you somewhere along the line. There's still a lot of things that we need to ask quite a few people. We still have another political big week coming on Sunday. We're going to be talking about Nigerian politics, and we're going to be talking about the APC in particular. I'm sure a lot of you don't want to miss that particular one, because this man that's going to come on, trust me, you want to hear him speak. Watch out. He's going to be on the show 8 p.m. on Sunday. You will love it. Now, like we always do, just before we close the show, we always try to give a social message. And the social message that we have been having on so far is the issue of rape. It's an abnormality. It is a crime. Nobody should suffer violation. Nobody should have to go through that type of humiliation. It causes depression. It causes a lot of mental health problems apart from the physical problems. You cannot have a healthy society without healthy women. Women are the foundation of every society. As the Yorubas will say, we need to consistently talk about this issue of rape. We need to protect our women. We need to protect our children. Children are very vulnerable. Both male and female children are being raped. They're being violated. You need to keep an eye out. If you have no idea of what to do, or you don't know how to watch your kids to try to figure out what is going on with them, there's a past episode of Just Banter where we talked about rape, and a certified social worker spoke about the signs that you can look for. You can look for an episode of Just Banter on either the Facebook page or the YouTube page and watch it so that you can learn a few things, so that you can keep a close eye on your children, know the things to look out for. It's very important. Don't get caught out. COVID-19 is still very real. Please, please, please try and maintain a social distance. Wash your hands as regularly as you can. Some people have been saying that they use all sorts of, whatever, but just soap and water. I think that should be enough. All these hand gels and all this whatever antibacterial stuff that you use is a lot of chemicals. It's gonna hurt you. You use it, use those same hands to touch your food and all whatnot. So it's safer to just wash your hands and stay clean. Maintain a safe distance. If you can wear a mask, wear a mask. As a matter of fact, Lagos State, as I heard, is making it mandatory for you to wear a mask, or you get fined and you have the option, and probably you get sent to jail as well. I think that is a good move, so as to try to keep people safe generally. So please stay safe out there. I'm going to close tonight, with my favorite song of the year. I love the song. You can't take that away from me. But because of this, social message that the song also passes, you need to listen to the song. If you haven't listened to the song yet, listen to it now. Just get a bit of it, a snippet of it. Then you can go on to Spotify and the rest and go and get the song. Support the young lady that sang the song. She is fantastic. She's a young lady. She understands, the malay that is going on and how detrimental it can be to society. And I'm talking about TY. And the song is No Excuse. Go and get it. Listen to it so that you can support the young lady, so we can support this campaign against rape. We'll be right back after this.
Say you hear the things where they happen. Say we no fit move as things don't they happen. See a dad don't end for coma, a chioma don't get amnesia. Say who away don't die. All the girls on street on the bagger. Cause bad guys there for the area, oh yeah. Say bad boys there for corner, oh yeah. And them talk say them go take it by force. Them go one day talk say no be them fault. Said I help me tell them.
Say no excuse, oh.
No excuse, oh.
Your mama na woman, no excuse, oh.
No excuse,
no excuse, oh.
On that note, we're going to say good night. Thank you very much for you guys coming on the show. And we'll see you on Sunday. Don't forget, don't miss it. You want to listen to that APC Big Week Talk. Good night, and have a fantastic weekend ahead. Thank you.